Hi, greetings class. I know you haven't heard my voice in a few weeks. For your second essay, you are required to use some outside sources. As we move forward in this class, you're going to be using more and more outside credible sources for your papers. So this video is talking a little bit about how to locate credible sources and what that means. I tried to do kind of a funny theme. Obviously, my photoshopping is not that great here, but it is supposed to be kind of funny and humorous, so just go with it. But again, we're going to be talking about locating credible sources today. Locating sources, it can be very difficult. It is tempting just to go to the internet. The internet, and we will use that a lot, does have a plenitude or a lot of really good sites that you can look at. But there's a lot of really, really bad sites on the internet too. I mean, anyone can have a website. That doesn't mean they are a credible source. Generally, when I say credible source, what I'm meaning is something that is in either a journal article, a scholarly book, a popular magazine that's credible, like Newsweek, Time, USA Today. I would not consider a credible popular source, which would be considered a magazine, to be something like Us Weekly, for example. That would not be credible. So where to locate sources can be very difficult and overwhelming. On this slide, I say it can be like searching for a leaf in a forest. You really want to start first, though, with your library that's available to you as an online student, and start looking through the electronic databases available to you, and I'm going to show you those in just a minute. Here, this just continues. This is just another funny image I found. Don't let bad sources attack you. One thing I do want to stress, for academic papers, under most circumstances, Wikipedia is not a credible source. Wikipedia has gotten a lot better over the years. It is much more fact-checked than it used to be. It used to be literally anyone could post anything and say they were an expert about anything, whether they were or were not. However, for this class, you cannot use Wikipedia as a source. So I just wanted to go ahead and stress that. It is good for looking up maybe some additional information, but you cannot use it as a source on this paper or your future papers. This is a screenshot that you see once you go to the e-library tab that is down from Blackboard. Hopefully you have been there before. I circled all of the databases because it does look different. I am most familiar with Jefferson's or JCTC's library database, but I do understand a lot of you are at different schools throughout the state. So this is really where you first want to go. Your school pays for the very nice electronic databases that you have to look up a lot of really credible articles, popular sources, books, etc. So that's definitely where you want to go first. This is somewhat hard to see. I realize that. This is when you access Jefferson's link. This is a link to a lot of different articles, a lot of different article databases that you can see. So if you're a Jefferson student, you will see this. Obviously, if you're a student at BCTC or Gateway or Hopkinsville or Hazard or another school within KCTC, yes, yours will look differently, but you will have a lot of the same databases. I selected EBSCOhost. Again, it is, I apologize, somewhat difficult to see. I had to shrink it from PowerPoint to Adobe Captivate, which is what you're seeing this video in. But EBSCOhost, you all should have this. It is a very nice, large database that has a lot of specific smaller databases within it. So you can see some of these. They're in different fields. Some are healthcare specific, some are literature specific, some are more general. You can select certain databases that you want to look at, or you can select them all to continue. Here on EBSCOhost, once I clicked on it, these are some of the different things that you can search for. And this is really important to understand when you start searching for items, whatever short story you have elected to do your paper on. or for your future papers in this class or your other classes, you really want to try to narrow your search as much as possible. You can see from the box, the red box, you can narrow down a publication date. So you can look at things within a certain date range. You can look at scholarly journals. A scholarly journal, and I didn't clarify this earlier, is something generally comes out a few times a year. It is peer reviewed by bigwigs, if you will, or scholars and professors in a certain discipline or field. I love the author James Joyce, for example, and there is a scholarly journal called the James Joyce Quarterly that is peer reviewed by the foremost Joyce scholars in the entire world. So to get your article or your submission in that journal is a really big deal within that community. So those are scholarly journals, full text. You can actually see the full text. References available. The other thing with the publication date is, depending on your paper, and I'm not going to give you the parameters on this paper, but with your research paper, it's really important that you're current in the conversation. You'll hear me say that a lot. Current in the conversation. Current in the conversation. You know, if you're doing a paper, a research paper on stem cell research, you don't want to use sources from 20 years ago because that has no bearing on what is going on with that research today. So you want to search for sources generally in the last 5 to 10 years. Again, because this is a lit analysis, I'm not requiring that you do that for this paper, but I do want you to keep that in mind. So I'm sure you're wondering, well, how the heck do I actually evaluate sources? There are some similar principles between print and web sources or internet sources. I'm going to go over some of the basic things to consider when you're looking at a source for you to think about, is it a credible source? Is it not credible? Is it something that would be good in an academic paper? First off, you want to ask yourself, who is the author? Who is the person who is writing this? Okay, what is their background? What's their knowledge of the subject? Have they written about this topic before? Are they published in their field? Okay. Why is this person considered an expert? Do they have a certain agenda? That's not necessarily bad, but that's something you want to consider. And then again, as I talked about in the previous slide, what's the date of publication and who has published this particular source? And then lastly, who is the audience? So these are some things you want to consider. So, let me just stress, you just don't find any source. You just don't randomly close your eyes and pick up a book and say, this is a source for my paper. You have to really evaluate what you're using before you use it. I think I've already stressed this enough in this presentation, but anyone, anywhere can post anything on the internet. Does not mean it's a credible source. So really, if one thing you take away from this presentation, I really want you to understand that with your papers, you can't just search for something into Google, copy and paste the first thing that comes up from your Google search in your paper. That really doesn't work. What you really need to do is evaluate the internet sources that you're using, or in a very similar way that you would with print sources, to make sure they're credible before you use them. Again, I apologize that these are somewhat hard to see, so you'll just have to listen to my voice. Some things that you want to consider with internet sources are the URLs, and what I mean by that is your site a .com, a .ed, or .edu, excuse me, a .gov, a .org. Not all the time, but normally you will get a sense of a site's credibility by that. Now, a .com site is commercial. That means anyone can have a .com site. Are there a lot of bad .com sites? Sure. Are there a lot of good .com sites? Sure. But generally, you might first want to look at a .gov, a .org, or .edu. Okay. Also, utilize search engines effectively. Okay, look for keywords, narrow down, just like I showed you on EBSCOhost. If you're doing a paper on a rose for Emily, don't just type in a rose for Emily. Narrow down your search specifically on what you're looking for in the story to get some more targeted results. And I suppose I like to be repetitive because this almost says the same thing. This example, though, that you can barely read, so again, just listen to me, is narrowing down your search. If you just type in Shakespeare into Google, you should try that. You're probably going to get countless matches, okay? That's not going to do anything for you if you're doing a paper on, say, Macbeth. Okay, or if you're doing a paper on women's roles in Shakespeare's tragedies. So you really have to narrow down your search parameters. So that means you really have to do those pre-writing strategies that we've talked about before in the class and have an idea what you're going to write about first and have a working thesis or at least a topic before you move to this phase. For this last slide, again, that's hard to read, but just imagine yourself on the mountaintop like this gentleman of conquering internet sources. These are some things to think about that you might want to go ahead and jot down when evaluating them. Just like a print source, one is, who the heck is the author? Who are they? What are their credentials? You know, why are they significant? Is the site credible? You can look at some websites and say that's a good website, that's credible, or you could look at a website that has, you know, dancing bears and spelling errors and fireworks and mismatched colors, and it just doesn't look as credible of a site. That should be a red flag. Okay. Also, what is the purpose of the site? Okay. Is the site's purpose educational, informational? To sell you something, propaganda, what is its purpose, okay? And then timeliness. Normally, at the bottom of a website, typically in the right or left-hand corner, it should say when the site was last updated. You know, if you're using a source that the website was last updated 10 years ago, generally that is somewhat concerning for most papers. So that is definitely something that you want to look at if you can find that. Not all sites are going to have the last date they're updated, but definitely check for that. Well, class, that concludes our video for today. I am going to get back in the habit of doing a video every week so you can hear my lovely voice. I will try to commission my husband to do some more voiceover work here in the near future. I do apologize, the past few weeks I got off track a little bit with some of the voiced over videos. I do like to do those. So please keep sending me emails. You know, with any questions you have. I'm trying to get caught up on grading. That's all on my radar. But I really want you to focus on this second paper and look at those sample links to different lit analysis that I placed on Blackboard. I think that will help you. So have a wonderful fall break, and I will be talking with you again very soon.